All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here talking about the end of Daryl Hall and John Oates, doing it in real time for a couple of real people out there who watch just like you and just like me. Thanks for being here, you loyal, faithful people. Um, Thanks to all the patrons and all the YouTube members. And all right, so John Oates did an interview with Michael Strahan from ABC News and basically said what we kind of already knew is that things aren't going well between John Oates and Daryl Hall. And I will just briefly talk about it. It's too bad because a lot of people have some very fond memories of this duo. I mean, one of the greatest duos in music history, some would probably say the greatest, right? I mean, you've got some other great duos out there. I think of Sam and Dave, who I'm pretty sure um, inspired Hall and Oates to some degree. But anyway, before I get to the Hall and Oates saga, this is a great album from the country of Sweden. This is Ride Home and Safsund. Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue, and I'm sorry about that. Um, Ride Home, Safsund, and their album is called Kaleidoscope. This is like Chicago Toto, just completely amped up with tons of horns, great sounds. In fact, Jay Graydon, the legendary Jay Graydon, co-writes a song on this. So this is serious West Coast AOR music for you. Lars Safsund, he's in the band Lionville. I'm not too sure about Ride Home, but together these guys they've made a juggernaut of an album. Was it like 13 tracks or something too? 12 or 13. Yeah, 12 tracks. And they just smoke. I mean, every single track is a winner. So check out Kaleidoscope, courtesy of Pride and Joy Music. Now, the end of Hall and Oates. Not surprising. So this interview with Michael Strahan, John Oates talks about things aren't too good between him and Oates. Here's the bottom line, right? And I've probably already talked about this to some degree. Of course, the news media, they're going to talk about a feud, and yes, I guess it is a feud, but it's more like a business deal gone bad. And then we realize that maybe one of these guys had way more creative control, which is probably in this case Daryl Hall. And Daryl Hall kind of makes John Oates feel like he was just tagging along. Now that we had established a brand, it was easier just to keep that brand and talk about Hall and Oates. Daryl Hall on his own still does pretty well. By the way, he's got a song out there that's pretty good. The typical super soulful Daryl Hall. John Oates has really impressed the classic rock world with an album that's kind of folky. It's very different, a little bit of country in there. It's a new album called Reunion. So both of these guys on their own putting out their own stuff. The Oates album again getting some pretty good reviews. So he goes on to tell Michael Strahan that he was trying to sell his half of the business, basically. And people are doing it all the time, according to John Oates, and he's right. It's pretty common. It's not that big of a deal, but Daryl didn't like the idea because of who he was selling this to, a certain third party, they said in the interview. And if you go back, I think you can look into who it was that Oates was selling it to. So Daryl Hall called it partnership betrayal. And Oates says, yeah, those are very strong words. Strahan says, do you see it that way? And he says, not at all. He says, I don't, because we've always looked at ourselves as individuals working together. So what does that mean? Well, it means that, again, they were business partners. They're obviously not friends, which is sad because you think of Hall and Oates, they must be best buddies. They must hang out on the weekends. Their families must hang out together. Nope, nope. And it's tough because you listen to the music for years and you think to yourself, wow, these guys must really like each other. They're still making music together. Well, Oates talks about how, again, they haven't made anything new together in like 20 years. I think 2004. And that album was pretty good. It wasn't a bad album, but that was kind of like the last gasp of an era. I mean, really, this duo. Now, again, the 70s were sporadic, but you go back to like Sarah Smile and the early days. She's Gone, which is just an epic song. But you go to like the early 80s, late 70s, maybe. I have to say, just as part of my own musical journey per se, as going to concerts, Daryl Hall and John Oates opening up for Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes at the Cape Cod Coliseum, 1979. That was my first concert. And my parents just left me there and came and picked me up. It was kind of weird. And I wasn't really into either of those groups, but I wanted to go see a concert, and they figured, okay, we're just going to drop the kid off here and hopefully he doesn't get, kidnapped or anything. Those were different days. That's all I could say. And I had a good time. I think I knew like one song at the time. Probably knew a Hall and Oates song, but should have been the other way around, maybe, with Oates being John Oates and Daryl Hall being the headliner. No, that's not the way they did it. Southside put on like an amazing show. It's kind of like a junior Bruce Springsteen kind of thing. And it was a good time. So anyway, the hot time for that duo was really the late 70s. The early 80s was just like, wow. I mean, one album after another. By the time you get to the mid 80s, everybody knows this. These guys are just cranking out hits. They're releasing third and fourth singles from albums. And, like Family Man, remember that? I mean, it was like the third or fourth single from an album that had already probably gone platinum. And you had Maneater going to number one. And then Out of Touch comes out. And I think that was like the peak right there. After that, things started to go downhill. But they had already just been overexposed and done just everything that they could possibly do. And so this catalog is worth a lot of money. It's going to be worth a lot of money. And Oates wanted to cash out, and now they're in court. They're in court facing off to see, can Oates sell his half? Is there a contract somewhere that says that he can't sell his half without Daryl's permission? And this is for people who are really into accounting and who can look at every little phrase and how things are worded. So you've got, lawyers poring over the documents, and Oates probably thinks he has a case, and Daryl Hall thinks he has a case, and so they're going to fight it out. And I don't know. I kind of feel bad for the entire situation because this is going on. Like, you've got other artists that are doing this where they'll sell their share in the franchise. And I haven't seen any legal battles with that. I've just seen that some people are holding on to their share and other people are selling it off for the lump sum. Oates probably figured, look, I'm not getting any younger, right? It doesn't look like Daryl and I are going to really create anything worthy together to add to this catalog. And as time goes on, radio isn't going to be as friendly, although in the case of Hall & Oates, radio is still very friendly to their back catalog. So we shall see how this will end. But we know for sure, right? We know that there is going to be no more Daryl Hall and John Oates working together for the foreseeable future. And for old nostalgic music people like yours truly, this is just a big bummer, right? So if you were lucky enough to see one of those Hall and Oates tours from a couple of years ago, consider yourself blessed, because they're probably not coming back together. Now, again, Oates has a new album out called Reunion, and Daryl has a new song out, which I can't remember the name of, but it's really good. So you can check them out separately, but not together. Also, please check out this album by Ride Home and Safsund. This comes to us courtesy of Pride and Joy Music, all the way from the beautiful country of Sweden. Sweden was one of the only countries, by the way, that didn't go into a full lockdown. And they actually did better statistically overall than the countries that did go into full lockdown. So smart people in Sweden, right? Doing things their own way and imitating American music in a way that really almost pays tribute to the genre. I mean, if you're going to do the Chicago Toto stuff, you really have to up your game. And these guys really did on this album. And anyway, folks, I appreciate the support here on the channel and the patrons, and I try to keep up with those messages. I got a lot going on this week. Just want to let you know. So be patient. And again, if you want to support the channel, you can do it through YouTube memberships, Patreon, and also buy me a coffee. One of my favorites, because I think I need a coffee still. I am just waking up because I tend to do these videos early in the day. God bless you all. Pray for peace in the Middle East and around the world, and I will talk to you soon.